Kaboom. Here we are, officially live. Yay. So we got to chit chat for a few minutes. Really good stuff that we came through. A little technical error there. But so we'll have to revisit some of it because I do want to chat about some of those things on here. That's why it's always hard because I want to engage with people when they walk in, but I also don't want to waste all the good stuff, because you're going to get it recorded. So my name is Mike Mills. This is the Texas Real Estate and Finance Podcast, and I'm with Verity Mortgage, lender here in Dallas-Fort Worth, based out of Mansfield, and I have with me today Cassie Spears. She is a broker, realtor, property manager, jack of all things, in Burleson.
Yes.
Well, that's where you're based, at least.
Yes.
Obviously, you do all over Texas, but so, I do want to say before we get started that we're in a place right now in a market where things are a little slower than they're quite a bit slower than they have been for the last couple of years. So I would tell anybody that would be watching or paying attention that if you are looking for an agent and these days you want to come and use someone who's professional. You want to have somebody that's been in the business for a long time, especially as sellers these days, because the market has shifted and changed so much that your aunt or your nephew that just got into real estate a couple of weeks ago, probably not the best source to be able to navigate this thing right now. So if you're in Burleson or anywhere around town and you are looking for an agent, I encourage you to reach out to Cassie. I think she'd do a great job for you, obviously. But so let's get started with, we said that you were born and raised in Burleson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right there at Hughley Hospital. Can't be more from
Hughley
there.
Hospital. Yes. My mom actually worked there long time ago. But so it's rare that you come across people very often that literally born, raised, you went to Burleson High School, and graduated from there and then started real estate pretty much right out of the chute.
Yep.
Right. So you started taking real estate classes in high school.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So I knew that I wasn't going to go to college. There wasn't funds there for me to go to college. And so I just started looking up professions that you could make a good living and not go to college. And real estate was like second on the list. And
what was number one?
I can't remember. Somebody asked me that not too long ago. I think it was like a CPA or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you can get certified.
Yeah, it's a certified. It's not a college.
Right. I mean, you still got to get licensed for an agent. You still have to go to like 4-year school.
Yeah. So I, I went online and looked that up, and then I got the phone book out because, this was in 2001, and I found
if anybody doesn't know what a phone book is, used to, they would deliver this book to your house that had everybody's phone number in it, and you'd get one every quarter or something like that. So yes, those were the days. Those were the days.
So I found a real estate school, and I called them, and I got all of the prices for the classes, and I signed myself up, paid for it myself, paid for half of it myself. And I took my first class on the weekend, and on Monday I realized I had no idea. I passed the class because they basically give you the answers, as you're taking it. So, but I had no idea. I didn't know what a mortgage was. I didn't know what any of that stuff was. So I actually got in my car on that Monday after school and drove to the RE/MAX office and just walked right in. And I was like, "Hey, who owns this place?" And they're like, "Oh, Sue Sistrunk." And I was like, "Okay, can I talk to her?" And they're like, "Do you have an appointment?" And I'm like, "No, but I need to talk to her right now."
Yeah.
So they're like, "Okay, well, let me see." And so I went upstairs and I talked to her. I was like, "Hey, I just started real estate school, but I know nothing about it. So is there any way you can give me a job and I can work at it like right now?" And she was like, kind of like thrown off. And she was like, "What kind of hours?" And I was like, "Well, I can work, from 3 until you close, Monday through Friday. And then every other weekend," because it was every other weekend for real estate school. And so she hired me like on the spot, because the day before that, her receptionist came to her and said, "Hey, I need to get off at 3:00 from now on. Like I can't work a full schedule anymore."
The timing was perfect.
It was literally like meant to be.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I started the very next Tuesday, and I just started doing office help. The MLS was a DOS system, so you had to
DOS. What year did you graduate?
2001.
Okay. So you're not that far behind.
They were just going into Netris. Netris was a new thing, and nobody in the office wanted to learn it.
Right.
So I was like, I started learning the DOS system, and I was like,
were y'all getting listings by fax back then too?
Yeah. Everything was by fax. Yeah. Yes. And so I just learned how to do the ins and outs. And by doing that, I learned a lot of terminology and things like that, and learned a lot of bad habits that I was watching agents do and things like that. So
you got to observe for a little while.
I did. I observed for almost 6 months.
Yeah.
And so then I finished all my classes, graduated high school, 2 weeks later, took the test, passed it. And then I was like, okay, now what? And then Sue's like, I don't want you to be an agent. I want you to come be my assistant. So I was her assistant for a full year. And then after a full year of working 9 to 9, because she's a hustler and worked all the time, I was like, this is cool. And I made, a good amount of money in that year.
Especially as an 18-year-old.
Yes. As I was 19 by then, I made like $75,000 my first 6 months.
Hell yeah.
And back then that was probably like
that was a lot. Yes, that was a lot of money back
Believe me,
then.
that was my first lesson in taxes too. Was that year too.
So, was it all 1099?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It was commission. Yeah.
And she didn't kind of prep you for that necessarily.
No. Again, I mean, she was a great mentor, but sometimes it's really important to learn what doesn't work for people.
You got to
learn
make mistakes.
From their mistakes, and so I set myself up from the beginning to set money aside for taxes and things like that. And then after that year, I was like, I can do this on my own. So then I went out on my own and been doing this ever since.
Wow. So you definitely had hustle out of the gate.
I did.
Like that seemed like that was something that was ingrained in your DNA.
It was.
Right.
Maybe the hustler by not having a choice. There wasn't any money like laying around like Cassie can go try things out. It was, I needed to pay for things. The funny story is once I found out that there was a real estate group that gave college scholarships, I petitioned for the scholarship and I got half my real estate school paid by the Burleson area tour group.
Wow.
And I had to stand in front of all the, a room full of people and give this like essay about why I think that they should pick me, even though I wasn't going to college. And they did. And so I only ended up paying for half of my real estate school, which was kind of cool.
Were either one of your parents like real, I guess the word, not aggressive, but just go-getters? I mean,
no, I don't, no? I mean, kind of, I mean, they both had work ethics. So they both worked and they struggled.
They worked hard.
We struggled our whole lives growing up. So I knew that I didn't want to live that same lifestyle. Right. So I wanted to have something different. So I think, again, it was just more out of necessity than anything. And then I met my husband, when I was 19 and he's 8 years older than me. So, so I was a 19-year-old dating a 28-year-old.
Hey,
and, but I wasn't an average 19-year-old. Right. I'd already been, selling real estate.
You were working and you very mature.
Yes, very much so. So, moved out right away and, been supporting myself ever since then.
Well, just to go into an office and, more or less, I mean, I would say you demanded a job, but you certainly,
I did. I mean, I just was like, hey, I need a job. And literally that was the first office that I found. It was very visible, red tin roof. Like I just pulled in the parking lot and I was like, if this one didn't work, I was going to go to Century 21. If that didn't work, I was going to go to somebody that they were going to hire.
Right. Somebody was going to hire you that day. Yeah. Like there wasn't going to be an option to not do that.
I mean, it was just like, she's like, I've never done this before, but I feel like this was fate. And, like I said.
So you met your husband, Tim, right? When you were 19.
Yes.
And was he, how long did it take before you guys decided to do real estate at the same time?
So our journey's a little different because I was licensed in 2001. He got his license in 2003. Okay. And we worked together until 2005, right into 2006. Gotcha. And I was studying the market at that time and I saw that, we were about to go into, some trying times and banks were pulling back on funding. They were letting go of people, kind of like what
not similar to what's happening now.
Really, really similar to what's happening now. So he went and got a job. And so he was the director of operations for the Fort Worth Convention Center for 12 years. Okay. And then I was looking for kind of a director of operations for my team. And I wrote out this whole like job description of who I would want. And we went on a cruise. And like, whenever we were on that cruise, I spent 7 days convincing him to quit his job. And I was just like, the person that I want to hire is you. Like everybody on this list is you. Yeah. And it doesn't cost me anything, we'll lose your salary. And he was making 6 figures. It was a great job for him, but it was just a job. There was nowhere else to go, from there. Yeah. So
he didn't have a lot of upward mobility with it.
So he came back and put in his notice and put his license back active.
And then you got to be his boss?
And for a little bit. So that worked out for a year. And then when we were at Keller Williams, they kind of snaked him to be the team leader, which is probably the most thankless job that there is in real estate, being a team leader of an office, like a whole office, not a team leader of a team. Yeah. So he did that until I talked him again into quitting and coming back. So he's been back.
Wait, so he was with you?
Yes.
And then he left your team
and went to be the team leader of our office.
Oh, of your office.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought maybe he like went to another.
No, that's where we were at.
I was like, wow, you're having to like.
Yeah. No. And he just, he felt a calling to leadership. And then he realized, I was like, you can lead on my team, but my team's very small, so I never have any desire to have a big team. Like, I want to keep it tight. I want to have a team of everybody making a lot of money, instead of a couple of people making a lot of money.
You want to spread the wealth a little bit instead of keep it in there. So when you put your team together, how did that come about?
So I've had different kind of variations. The first time I formed a team, it was a group. It was just, putting people together that, we weren't forming in unison. And so when I realized that wasn't working, it kind of worked itself out where, they either got out of business or, did it on their own. Or so whenever I went to build my team, right. So what I did was 4 years ago, I signed up for a coaching program, and
which coaching program?
Krista Mayshore.
Okay.
And so when I signed up for that coaching program, I really realized that I wasn't attracting people the way that I wanted to attract people. So I kind of scrubbed it. And so I hired Taylor, who's my assistant now. Yep. So she's been with me for almost 4 years. And so for the first year of that coaching program, I just worked on myself. I was like, I need to work on how I can be the right leader so that I attract the right people so that they want to stay, they want to work, so I did that for a year, worked really hard on myself, my mindset. I worked really hard on my mindset. There's a lot of negative factors in this industry. And so a lot of negative voices and things like that.
I think part of the problem is that, everybody has this, it's like a scarcity thing where you're terrified that someone else is going to take your business or your deal. And it is the same thing. Lending's the same way. And in real estate, it's the same. Realtor is the same deal where instead of sharing, hey, this is what I do and this is how I do it and that kind of thing, everybody keeps everything really close to the vest because they're terrified that someone's going to take their stuff. And one of the things, we'll get into this in a minute, but with all the stuff that you do on social media, I wanted to ask you kind of where you came about and how you got to that point. And, there have been some that are hesitant about talking about it because, well, it's like, well, I don't want to share all my secrets. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. It's one thing to know what to do. It's a whole other thing to do it. Right. Yep. And you can tell people all day long, different ways to go about, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine the other day and he was like, well, what are you doing these days? with the market shifting, whatever. And I said, look, I'm not doing anything that's rocket science. Okay. You're not doing, how to do all of these things. There's no new way to invent the wheel. There's no shortcut. It's grinding. It's working. It's getting in front of people. It's, putting yourself out there. That's what you have to do every day. 100%. And there is no way to get around that. So instead of searching for a way to, shortcut, just do the work. But that's why you could tell people, I'll tell you how to make $1 million. And you could tell them, and out of 100 people, one person might actually go about doing it, right?
If that,
yeah. So it's definitely something where I think that, what in our industry as a whole, because everybody's terrified of losing their business, it's a very defensive strategy instead of offensive. And instead of dwelling on the stuff that you missed out on, because maybe, I'm sure you've lost out on listings. I'm sure buyers have left. I'm sure you're not batting 1,000. But when that happens, you just got to move on, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a transaction. It's a business arrangement. You got to take yourself and your feelings out of it.
Yeah. Do you say that you've developed some thick skin over the years?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Being a property manager, you have to have the thickest skin.
So that's a good point. So you got into property management as well.
Yes.
And when did you, or what was the impetus of that? Like, why did you decide to get into property management?
So I had been studying the market and I knew that the crash was coming. I actually started it in 2005 and it was out of necessity. It's like, how do I get my real estate dues paid? How do I pay? Because I was at Remax 100%. So I had a desk fee. How do I get that paid? And it just was just grabbing, properties each one at a time until, I got to a point where it was like, okay, this is a sustainable business.
Yeah.
And then just grew it from there. It's a good source of listings for me because those people already know, like, and trust me. So when it comes time to sell, I usually sell 10 to 15 of my rentals every single year, like clockwork.
Well, that was the thing that amazed me that you told me in the beginning was because, I have some buddies of mine that sell insurance and, I give them a hard time. It was like, well, your policies renew every year. So once you get to a certain level of business, you can kind of go on autopilot. Now you're going to have some fall off and you got to add back to it. So it's not like you don't work, but at the same time, there's not as much stress as to, you kind of have a pretty good idea of how much money you're going to make that year, right? Yeah. You're not lost. Whereas for us, we're always back to zero every single month. Yeah. And so if you have a portfolio of 300 properties that you're managing, and a certain percentage of those are going to turn over between investors every year and you're going to list them, then there's built-in business for you every single year, right?
And back in the day, before the market was so hot, a lot of times there would be an active tenant in there and things like that, so they wouldn't want to go on the market.
Yeah.
So then I would find, one of my investors would want to sell for some reason or another, and so I would get another investor to come in and buy that property. One, so I could keep managing it, and two, so I'd get a sell out of it. So I mean, I have so many houses that I've sold multiple times, that I've managed for multiple people, it's been a great business for me.
Well, and it a lot of times it just comes down to work, right? You just have to work.
You do. And the thing about it is each one of those investors thinks that their properties are the most important.
Right.
So, I might not talk to every one of them every single month, but I have to be available to talk to them. Right now, I manage for 135 investors.
Now, do you handle a lot of that yourself, or do you some of your team, does Tim deal with it? Taylor's your assistant, right?
Yeah, Taylor came in. She does. So how it works for us is any of my investors that I had before Tim, I have the 100% relationship. Any investors that it came in since then, Tim has the relationship with, so that we can kind of divide the work up. Taylor's job is she's the transaction coordinator, but she also prepares all the lease agreements. She communicates with the tenants. I mean, we have such a smooth, seamless move-in process that's a system. My son, Lex, he handles all the bank running, all of the sign placement. He takes pictures for them, and he's just learning that role. So my future plan is for him to just take that business over completely and be me of that business.
Hey, it's a pretty good deal, Lex. It's good. You got a little built-in job right out of the gate. That's pretty solid.
And he's seen me work, and he knows, he's seen me at the water park with my phone in a Ziploc baggie, working on repair requests and, dealing with that. So he's seen me, and he understands that it's not just,
9 to 5.
And just, you don't collect your check and go. Now we have a way more seamless process. They don't even have my cell phone number anymore. Everything is online through a portal and things like that. So I'm a systems and process person. You can't do what I do and not have really solid
There's
systems.
no way to do that.
There's no way to do it. So, a lot of it runs, most of it all runs very, very smooth, but it's years and years of putting in the work, trials and tribulations.
There's a guy, I read a book recently. I've mentioned this a couple times. Anybody pays attention? His name's Naval Ravikant. Do you know who that is? Have you ever heard of him? So he created Angel List. Do you know what Angel List is? It's a VC, investor portal thing that they can pick business from. Anyway, he talks in his book about these different forms of leverage and using, obviously assets as leverage, and get, money's leverage, obviously, and then people and resources are leverage. But then he talks about, he's a programmer, so he's a Silicon Valley guy who writes code, and he talks about coding being leveraged. Like I write code, I create a software program, it runs, and then it makes money without me having to do anything. So that does something for me. And so as I'm listening to the book, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know how to write code, and I'm certainly not going to go learn how to do that tomorrow. But then it did kind of dawn on me, and it's what you said is absolutely true, is that the systems that we create to run our business are the same thing as code. 100%. It's exactly the same thing. So, for example, if you get a lead from, a TikTok or what, something comes in online, you get a direct message. Based on what you're telling me, I would be willing to bet you probably have, well, first you do this, and then we do this, and then we do this. And it's like you could hand it over to somebody with a half a brain and go, hey, all you gotta do is follow the steps.
100%.
Right? Because that's how you manage everything.
And it was what I was looking for when I was like, where's the manual? Like, you have job manuals. Where's the manual for real estate? Where's the manual for property management? So I just created it. And I was like, this is how you run a successful real estate business. This is how you run a successful property management business. And they're two completely different business, and they're not for the same type of people. Right. I'm just, a weirdo that's actually really good at both of them. So,
well, it's a shame, because I think a lot of realtors, if they work for Keller Williams or they work for Remax, they still see themselves as an employee. I'm an employee of Remax. I'm an employee of Keller Williams. And it's like, well, you're not. First off, they're not taking any taxes. Like your fun little tax adventure.
You don't get paid on Friday.
No. And new agents coming in, sometimes when you go to the bigger brokerages like the Kellers and the Remax of the world, they do have training and they have things that they can put forth for you, but there's nobody holding your hand typically on how it's going to go. You get a mentor maybe, but that person, you just can call if you have a question from time to time.
Or you get training from people that have a lot of spare time. And so you have to really realize why they have so much spare time.
Why do you have so much time to tell me how to do stuff?
I learned that really quickly.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the real reason I want to talk to you more than anything is that I am way, just like everything else that you apparently do. I'm very impressed with your social media platforms that you do. And now I see you're on, all of them. You have a YouTube channel, but last time I checked, it hadn't had anything in a while.
No. So we just started doing shorts. My son Lex will post.
Yep.
So we're all about repurposing. So
Yes.
we make a piece of content on TikTok, and then I will put that everywhere that I can.
Yes.
So like if it's less than 30 seconds, then I can put it on TikTok. I can put it on Instagram. I can put it on Facebook Reels and Google My Business.
Yes.
Google My Business is a platform that most agents are not using, and they're missing out. I went to a class Monday, and we were in there in a room and with 32 realtors. Okay. And it was the title company putting it on, and it was all about marketing. And I was like, okay, I'll see what I didn't take one note because I'm already doing all the things, which is good. But
I can imagine you in that class. You're like,
I was literally, and he knew it right when he saw me, because he had met with me this summer, right when he took over, and he came to my office. He's like, I want to show you all these cool things. And we were like, we do that. ClickFunnels, we do that. We do that. And he's just like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna score your website. And so he put it on, a scoring system. Or he scored a 97 out of 100 because we do the work. We put things everywhere. So in that class, he goes, what y'all need to realize is when you're on your website that you have to use keywords and search terms and things like that. He's like, get out your phone and Google realtor near me. And guess who was number one? Everyone's like, everybody started, Lex was sitting there. Everybody started turning around, looking. Half the people probably wouldn't, turn around and look, but they knew it was there. Right. But it's not something that I just like, oh, here's the one thing. And it's all of the things. So we post blogs all the time. And do we make up these long blogs on our own? No, we use AI to write most of the blogs. We go in there and edit it.
Using like the Chat GPT stuff?
Yeah, we use Jasper. Jasper. The one that we use.
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
So, we can take, 3 sentences of what we want to do and then make a big old blog post from that.
Right.
And then we post those, like we do 3 to 4 blogs every single week.
Really? So do you post them on your website, or do you post them
on my website?
And that helps with the Google.
It helps with your SEO, because like say I do a blog that says, how do you pick the best realtor? So I'm using the term best realtor.
Right.
I'm also saying, in order to be the best realtor, you have to do this, and you need to look for this when you're looking for the best realtor. So if you Google best realtor in Burleson, that's who comes up.
Right.
Me.
Right.
But it's not just because of the one thing. It's all of the things.
Cumulative.
But in 2021, I spent probably, $75,000 in coaches. So I had 3 coaches that year. And so each one of them taught me something different. I had my marketing coach, Krista, which I'd pretty much done most of the things that she had taught. But then there was some other ticketed items that I wanted to do. So I hired a maps coach. He was really good. He's the one that taught me how to really track my numbers, because there's clarity in tracking.
Maps coach, what is that?
Maps is like Keller Williams. It's a Keller Williams thing. So they have, it's like a mastery coach. And so it's only through Keller Williams. So when I left Keller Williams to go to EXP, I lost my maps coach. And I'm really sad, because he really was, I love clarity and I love systems and processes. And he just really showed me how to like project and forecast and things like that. And I wasn't doing it before.
Yeah.
So yes, business was coming in, but I always was thinking, oh, what's next? Well, once I learned how to track and knew that, if you do this much business from SEO and you do this much business from your sphere of influence and all that, then you can guess that I'm going to have this many deals. And so it kind of just takes the weight off your shoulders to think, where's this all coming from? And then when you track what you're doing, you also can put more efforts towards those things.
Right.
So I'm very visual. So we have like whiteboards in all of our office. So I can tell you where every single transaction came from, what my cost to get that lead in was from different platforms. And it just helps me to understand that, all the efforts, because it's a lot. What I do is a lot.
Yes. I'm tired just hearing you talk about it. Like, I'm like,
most people will say, why do you do real estate when you can just make a great living doing property management? And I said, why do I have to do one thing? Like, I'm really good at both. I'm very good at negotiation. Like, I am a negotiation queen, and I thrive off of it. So the last, 2 years, it's been fun for my sellers, but it sucked for the buyers, because they basically gave the sellers whatever they wanted.
Yep.
And so
and now it's flipping.
Yeah. And so the other coach that I hired, I had my husband and I got COVID, and this was when, what was that? Clubhouse. Remember that when that was a thing?
Oh, that was the deal where you could all go into the same chat room
and talk,
and it was all like people talking over each other. It was terrible.
It was a big fail.
Yeah.
But I met this other coach, this other guy that was in there. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to do this coaching for $1,000. I'll coach you for 90 days." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. It's $1,000." And I looked him up on Google, and he had a really good Google presence, and that's what I was trying to do. Like, I was doing location domination, and what that basically is like you want to be the mayor of your town. Like, if anybody thinks about real estate, they think about you.
Isn't that a Buffini thing?
Yeah. And so what he taught me was how to really step up my game. So I changed my website provider. I use Sierra Interactive, which is an amazing website, but it doesn't do it all for you. You've got to do the work. He also is the one that taught me how to do Google ads.
Okay.
So Google ads, and that really changed my business. So we spent last year, we didn't spend that much. We spent like $16,000 and we made $200,000 from client. Yeah. So that's a good, but it was, I was coached on it for a full year.
Sure.
Hey, do this, do that, do this. And I did everything. So I'm the type of person, like, you tell me to do something, and if I trust you, I'm going to do it. So, so those are the 3 coaches that I had that year. And, this was a time when marketing really wasn't that important. Like, you put a sign in the yard and it's going to sell.
The last 2 years were not normal.
Like, you're really every listing that you took in 2021 and 2022, you're really auditioning for your next listing.
Right.
And if you didn't treat it that way, then you wouldn't do the professional pictures. You wouldn't do all the advertising and things like that. So I just decided that, I needed to do all the things, like, it's everything. So having those 3 coaches really paid off, because everyone in my area, especially the office that I was at, they're like, "Why are you doing this? Like, why are you hiring coaches? And you're spending so much." I mean, I spent more than the average agent makes in coaching alone.
Yeah.
So, that's my sister.
Do you know Misty?
Yeah, that's my sister.
Misty, she's loving it. She's loving it. I'm sure she lives in this world all the time. She's like,
she knows
we're going into 5th gear. Hang on, buddy. Put your seatbelt on.
But it was, I just wanted to be the very, very best. And I knew that I needed to market then. And you don't learn marketing now. So I think where a lot of agents are failing, especially like the people that in their class, they're all taking these vigorous notes because they weren't doing it last year. They weren't spending the time. And I was like, I mean, I literally immersed myself in marketing and what makes the consumer do something and how do you show up and what's branding and client avatar, like all the things like I know about like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
And what's really cool too with my one coaching program is now I'm a mentor in it. So I get to help agents. So like I spoke on stage a couple times last year and I've taught other agents. This is where you come from abundance mindset, not scarcity. And I taught them how to do a Google review funnel. So what I did was I spent the whole year of 2021. So I didn't have a Google presence on reviews, like a Google My Business or anything like that. So I spent all of 2021 nurturing my past clients.
Okay.
I would drop off things on their door. I would send them postcards with a QR code that took them directly to leave a review. I had contests and things like that. So at the end of the year, I had 100 5-star reviews on Google. That was what made my ads perform so much better because not only am I paying, so Google likes for you to pay,
but you're legitimate.
Number 2, I'm legitimate.
Yeah.
And then number 3, I'm actually talking about the topics that people are actually searching on my website.
Right.
So it just made me stand out. Now, last year, a lot of agents in the area started doing like local service ads and stuff like that. So the amount of leads that were coming in came down, but it doesn't matter because the ones that call me, they're ready to do business with me.
Yes.
Like they're like, here's my keys, or here, I want you to do the property management. Especially, I was kind of scared to even have an online presence owning a property management company because you cannot imagine how hard it is to keep all those tenants happy.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I was almost like a secret agent, like, oh my gosh, they're going to get somebody's water heater to get fixed and they're going to go and give me a 1-star review. So what happened is 2 days into this or 2 months into this funnel, we took over a property. We didn't know it was a problematic tenant. They forgot to tell us that part. So we sent this whole welcome to this is how we do things. Blah, blah. He went and gave me a 1-star review. Never had a conversation with the guy. So then we turned it around and I put my whole team in like a jail cell. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we're in 1-star jail. And the only way to get out of 1-star jail is if you guys leave us. That postcard got us 20 reviews.
Wow.
They were like, what? She's great. And
they truly made lemonade out of lemons.
And we did. And we did that a couple times. So, because Google Math isn't math. So I think we have like 188 reviews and we have 6 1-star and they're tenants. Like we have a tenant that allegedly burned down the house or burned down the kitchen after being evicted, and he went in and wrote us 2 reviews, so that's fun. And so we've been trying to fight that with Google, but so we have a 4.8. So at first I was like, when I had the 5, I was like, I cannot, I need this 5-star review forever. Once I dropped to like 4.9, it makes you more relevant.
Yeah.
Because people have hired us because of how we respond
Yeah.
to those 1 stars.
Yeah.
Like we'll have people, we're like, we don't even know who you are. We've checked our database and we don't show your name. We've checked our call logs. We've checked we don't know who you are. And a lot of times those people will go in and delete those.
Right. They'll just take them out. Whew, man, I feel like I just ran a marathon with you there. That's
Welcome
impressive.
to me in my head.
Yes. No,
but the cool thing is I teach other agents how to do it.
Yeah.
Like I teach them like, hey, you do this, and it's helped. Like it's tremendously helped other people, and that's fulfilling for me, because when you're, like you said, a lot of agents, especially your local market, they don't want to share with each other.
Yep.
They don't want to tell you what's working. If I could tell you the way that they pretty much made fun of me to my face for doing videos when I first started, like, why are you doing this? Like, this is ridiculous. Or like, oh, she says this when she does videos, or that when she does videos. And I didn't care because I had a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And I already had seen it work for other people in other areas. And so at first, there was a negative voice in my head for a while. So I hired another coach, and she was a straight video coach, and she taught me like why I feel the way that I feel when I'm on videos, and like I would like almost like make myself quieter on video, my voice softer on video. And that's not how I talk. I mean, you're sitting here talking to me. I'm not quiet at all. And so, and just going through the psychology of why I was doing that on video completely changed. Like I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And she gave me a lot of helpful tips. So now when I do videos, I feel like somebody's going to watch a video and be like, that's Cassie.
Right.
That's who I do business with, or that's who I want to do business with. So, but if you don't ever stop, you're not going to do anything. So if you don't ever do the first video, just do it or send it to your friends. I started doing daily video text to my clients when I was working on myself on video, because I wanted to see, these are easy audience. They're not, cold people on the internet.
And it's not going to be out there to everybody.
Rude things about you and stuff like that. So what I would say to that, if you're an agent listening to this, is you just do the videos. Even if you just make videos and send it to your friend or your husband or somebody, just do them. Because if I would have never done them, then I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I mean, I can do a video. I'm not shy on it. I can talk about things. I mean, to do content creation, you have to be creative, but you also can't have a negative voice in your head, because
you have to practice too.
And you do have to practice. And there's always this negative headspace, especially if you go online and you build an audience. And I mean, people are jerks sometimes. They say, rude things to me, and I will respond with them. I'm pretty sassy, so I'll respond to them. Most of the time they'll delete their comments, and it's not nothing rude. I'm just like, really? Because they'll say, oh, the market is crashing, or the market, you'll tell me this in 2 years. And I'm like, well, 22 years into it, I've been through 3 shifts. So if I was going to listen to anybody, I'd probably listen to somebody that's been through a couple of shifts. But who am I to say that? Right.
Well, and that's probably what you experienced too, because like you said, when we were going through 2020 through 2022, and this is the same, I tell people this all the time, that 2-year period was unlike anything that we have ever seen in the history of real estate.
Yeah.
And it's not even close to reality. It's not even close to normal.
No.
It was just full steam ahead. Everybody was just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And anybody that came into the business during that period of time got and I don't fault them for it. They just didn't know any better.
No,
but
you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, right. So they experienced this thing that was completely unsustainable, but they had no idea that that's what it was going to be. And then we come to now where the brakes kind of came on, and really, you made a post about this the other day, I think, where you were talking about the market in general and where things are going. And I just made a comment about just, the inventory shortage that we still don't have. And it's, when people talk about the crash that's coming, I'm like, unless there's just a massive amount of layoffs and people lose their job, which is possible.
I did a video and I said, okay, if this happens, this happens, then you get your crash.
Right.
But I mean, it's
a lot of things.
It's a lot of things.
Yes.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of property out there. There's a lot of homeowners out there, and
But you use that 2-year period, like you said, which is brilliant. Is to actually master marketing, because you didn't need to market then.
No, I didn't.
And business was running itself, and the money was coming in. You didn't really have to do a whole lot. So put your focus over here instead of. A lot of people, probably myself included, took a seat back and just like, oh, this is great. I'm a ninja at this. I can just keep making. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, uh-oh. Yeah. And then you see nowadays it's people starting to realize, okay, I need to get on social media. I need to start putting myself out there. But those that have been doing it for a long time, since 2 years ago, you already have a developed presence. It's already there. You're already refined your craft to the point that everybody's got to catch up.
And I think what it develops is a trust factor. Like people trust me. I would say I get 15 direct messages every single week from like somebody I went to high school with or a past client. And they're literally just telling me how proud they are of me.
Well, they get to know you almost.
And they do because they've seen it. I'm a very like transparent person. So I haven't ever sit back and say, oh my gosh, this is so easy. This is, I've never done that. I've never been complacent. And so if you are showing your day-to-day life, whether it's through stories or video or whatever, you're showing that people are watching, even if you don't realize it. Some of the message that I just got a friend from high school. I mean, I haven't talked to him since high school. And he messaged me yesterday and he's like, hey, I have a friend that's a lender and she just got laid off. Whenever I was like, I know somebody that might be able to help you. You were the first person I thought of. And I was like, yeah, I'll check around and see what I can do. And he's like, oh, and I want to tell you how proud I am of you. And it's just kind of nice because he wouldn't. And he's like, and it makes me feel good to see people from Burleson that we go to high school with that are actually doing good. And, especially in the community that you live in, they didn't move off to go do something else.
Well, and some of your stuff too. And the reason I really liked, I really like y'all, the stuff that you put out is because you see other things and it's, you've got we're going to take you through a tour of the house and we're going to see this. And then you've got let me show you how great of an agent I am and what I can do for you. Your stuff is humor. It's, you do have some, hey, here's where the market is, those kind of things. I think you pick up on the trends really well and you use that.
I have a TikTok coach too. So
but for the most part, like your stuff is either self-deprecating or it's funny or it's lighthearted. It's not call me today, please, which is
humanizes what we do. So because the people,
you have a TikTok coach, by the way?
Yes, I have a TikTok coach.
This is great. Okay.
So I hired him.
Why not? Why not?
So I was just going at it and, we built a following. Before I hired him, I was probably at like 3,000, followers, maybe a little bit more than that. And, he really helped me like with pillars and things to like talk about. And, and TikTok is the hardest platform that I've ever tried to be on. And because it's not putting out to certain people. Like if I put something on Facebook Reels, then 90% of the time that's my people that I know. And so on TikTok, it's a little bit harder, but that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to reach the people. So not only am I, growing my following, but I'm also serving. So like I have my link in my bio, and my link in bio isn't just, hey, give me a call. It's not that. It's like, hey, sign up for this free buyer's guide. And it's a click funnel. That's not just a free thing. I'm going to capture your information and I tell you that I'm going to capture your information and then we're going to be talking until you tell me to stop talking to you.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying in the abundance versus the scarcity thing where okay, I have a buyer's guide. Well, somebody would say, well, I need to meet you in person in order to give you the buyer's guide, or I need to do a listing appointment with you to do that. And you're going, no. You can get it for free. Just put your email and your phone number in there and you can have it. Right. And then now all of a sudden you have somebody that you can market to all the time.
And I tell them that. So, when I first started like pushing some of my guides, it wasn't hitting. Like I would get people that would go to the page and I would check analytics. I'm like, why am I getting so many clicks, but nobody's giving me the information? When I started holding up my guide, like show people that it's tangible and it's something on the videos that started getting.
Do they print it or they?
No, they can't. It's a flip book. Okay. So it's so
it's they like get a PDF that you can flip book.
So they instantly get it as a flip book, but then they also get it in their email so they can have it for later.
Okay.
And I tell them that I say, hey, you're going to get it instantly, but if you don't keep that link, don't worry about it because you've got it in your email too.
Wow. I don't think you have a lack of systems. And the thing is, it almost becomes like addictive a little bit because once you get one system in place and then it bleeds to something else, and you're like, well, now I got to create a system for this. And then you look up and you've got 500 systems and they're all running like a machine. Yes.
Yep. And I keep adding to it. So my husband always is just like, you could put the brakes on a little bit. And I was like, this car has no brakes.
I don't think it does. We have no brakes here. I don't think it does.
Right now I'm working on a buyer's book. I'm almost done with it. I'm co-authoring it with my coach, Krista, and I'm going to give it as a lead magnet. I'm going to give that book. I'm going to get some printed, but the main purpose is to get something to because people want something of value. It can't just be, a list of the 10 things you need to do to get your house ready. They can Google that. Right. It needs to be something that shows these are the 10 things I'm going to do to get your house sold.
Right.
And it shows that you're actually out there working. And some of my guides by the end of it, I know my stuff. Like all of them, I know my stuff. And it's not just what you're going to get in most people's. It's what we really get. Now, granted, we do get agents that download our guides. If you're out there doing that, don't. It's not very ethical, but it's fine because you know what? they're not going to create it most of the time.
Yeah.
And
again.
so if they want to have my guide and they want to look it over and, if you create it, then you can, if you want to steal my stuff, then steal it only if you're going to create it. If you're just going to do it just to do it, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't waste my time. Of course, I pull them out of my funnel immediately and they don't get anything else after that. But it's just because people want to know what I'm doing.
Sure.
And I, when I left Keller Williams, I bought an office in Old Town Burleson. We had a great opportunity.
Looks like a little house. It's a great little office.
Yeah. So it was a hair salon.
Of course, we've seen it all the time because it's,
I know. And it's, the funny thing is down to the color of my office was a choice. It wasn't just like, oh, she wants a pink office. No, because I want to brand myself. I've been branding myself. And so of course I'm going to paint my office pink because that's the color of my brand. But
when the shirt that you're wearing right now too.
When I bought my office, we went to our own place. So we went from an office, a huge, pretty good sized Keller Williams office, which a lot of our agents left. It's the content
house. Yes, that is.
So, and
that can be interpreted in different ways there, Tim. Be careful.
But and we separated ourselves, and it wasn't just because I just, of course I wanted an own office, but I separated ourselves on purpose because we had a mission and we had a plan, and I didn't want any outside noise. I didn't want anybody else telling me, because I'd already been dealing with that for a couple of years of people telling me, why are you doing this? And, giving me sideways glances and talking behind my back and all that. And the
haters always coming out,
and that's fine. That's
it's driving. It's a little
they're
driving.
Fans at this point.
Yeah.
So, being at my office really helped us to separate, and then we just started knocking out our goals, and we really have we had a purpose, and when I say we had a purpose, like everything that we do is for a purpose. There's nothing that we're just going to be like, oh, let's try this. I'm like, if I'm going to put money on something, then I'm going to be like, okay, does it work? And not every single thing that we've ever done has worked, but a lot of them have. So
I got a ton of questions. All right. So first off, I want to answer Gary. Gary's he works with me or in our company. He's out of Indiana though. So he's in another state. But he's asking about Sierra Interactive. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on that?
So it's Sierra Interactive is just the platform. I like it because it's very easy to do it.
What
yourself.
Is Sierra Interactive?
It's just the website. It's just just like any website provider, like KV Core, whoever you want to pick.
Okay.
But it has a CRM with it, and the CRM, it's just very user friendly. And when I say user friendly, it's not made for you. Like you can pay. We paid for them to set it up, but then we completely scratched everything when I hired the one coach, and he's like, okay, let's do all this all over again.
Yeah.
And it worked. But I mean, we post all the time. We change our content. It's not anything. It's not like Sierra has changed things. We made the choice to do things on Sierra. It also, everything that we do on our website, you have to be thinking about where it was going to show up on Google.
Right.
Like, how am I going to use these keywords and use them a lot? We do like geotagging on all of our pictures. So it's not like we're just putting a picture on. That picture's got coded and it says like where that picture was taken, like the whole, and it just helps. But it's, it's a building process. Right. So I would just say to that person, like, one, see if you can they're really good at, helping out and stuff. But also, you just got to start putting stuff out there. Okay. So no, it's not just going to kill itself for you.
Right. Kind of well, and I'm, from lender's side, like I'm kind of at a point where I've started doing this kind of thing and I'm making little clips, but I really don't know what I'm doing beyond. I even met with somebody recently because I was trying to figure out, okay, how do we get leads? And, what, because my goal obviously is I want to interact with agents and then obviously sometimes with buyers as well. But, and I kind of got kicked in the head a little bit because she was like, well, what are you offering? And I'm like, well, I don't really know actually. And she's like, well, then I can't help you until you know what you're trying to do. And I'm like, okay, she's absolutely right. Like I'm an idiot over here.
I would say one of the key things that I don't think people pay attention is your bounce rate.
Right. Your
bounce rate is how long, when somebody clicks on your page, how long do they stay there? Okay. If they're staying there for 4 seconds, you don't have anything of value.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're going to stay there for 15. Our average is 2 minutes, which is really, that's a long time for somebody to stay on your page. Yeah. But if you're noticing that people are finding you, which is good, but then they're not staying around or they're not coming back, it just means that you're not providing the right information to those people, or the way that they found you, they're not getting what they needed for that. You know?
So, okay. So obviously you're at what I would call super Jedi level of managing this business that you have. So,
and then I think I have so much room to grow.
Well, that's
so
why,
much.
But
like,
that's
you can
why
ask my husband, I beat myself. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, she's so confident. Oh, and I am confident, but I'm also like really, really hard on myself.
Yeah. Well, you're confident in your knowledge. You know what you know.
I know what I know, but do I think that I'm the best? No. Do I think that there's people that are better than me? Yes. Who are they? And how can I learn from them?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so okay.
What's your phone number?
That was what I was going to ask you is, So you said, obviously coaching plays a big role in what you do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have a negative impression of coaching, which again is understandable because there's a lot of, charlatans out there that are coaches. Everybody's a coach these days.
A coach,
right? So it's like, what did you do exactly to coach anybody to do anything? So how did you pick the coaches that you picked? And then B, or really A, is what ultimately made you think that coaching was the route to go and put the dollar amount to say this is worth it? And then how did you pick those people?
So when I wanted to hire my first coach, I was just basically bored, and I was like, business is 90% referrals, and it's coming in, but I wanted to figure out, one, if I was going to build a team, how was I going to feed those people? So one, I just wanted to learn how to, I wanted to learn how to be on video, and this was 4 years ago. And then I wanted to learn how to get leads. Like, how do I get leads? What's the best place? So that was when I hired my first coach. Then when I hired my second coach, it was because I had done so many things, but I was just constantly like, oh, we got to do this, you got to do that. I needed somebody to be like, okay, tell me what you're doing. This is working. This isn't working. And it was just kind of a sounding board. He's also the one that taught me how to track my numbers and things like that. So, I don't think that one coach was, of course, Krista was great because that's how I even got into video, how I even learned how to do ads and stuff like that. And she still is great. She's a really good friend of mine. But
kind of trial and error, maybe.
Yeah. And it was. And then it's really cool if you like it, what I didn't know was the community that was going to come with it.
Right.
Like, I have real estate friends all over the world, and they
that were also doing coaching as well
in this coaching program.
Yeah.
So then you would see it humanizes things. So it shows that they're struggling with video too. And they don't know how to do, this certain funnel, or they don't know, their ads aren't performing. And then we'd be like, okay, then what can we do? And so we would get together and we would mastermind and things like that. So and it was expensive. Like, this was in 2018, and it was $15,000, and I, wrote a check for $15,000 and did it because I knew, and the way that she had found me was through Facebook ads and online marketing. And so I was like, well, if she can find me here and she's in California, then I think she can help me find people around here.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of took a blind leap of faith, and, and it wasn't just like, oh, I just signed up for coaching and everything took off. It wasn't. It was a whole year of, once I realized what my bigger purpose was, then I needed to know like how
to execute it,
how to do it, and like steps and processes. I hired a dang coach to help me do all the things that my other coach taught me how to do, just so I could put it more in a systematic way.
Well, it's funny. We had this conversation right before we came on about education, about college, and do you need a degree, whatever. So it's crazy to me how, and just highlights of what you just said, is like, if you want to spend $60,000 or hell, these days $100,000 to go to a 4-year university, nobody bats an eye. Oh yeah, that's what you need to do. Go there while you're learning, liberal arts, and you're having your history of whatever. I mean, it's just all this stuff that may or may not serve you any good. But then if someone says, well, you're going to pay $10,000 to have this person teach you how to get leads, like, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that?
Why would I do that?
You're like, wait a minute. I don't understand how those two things mesh up, and nobody cares about it. They're fine. Oh yeah, I'll spend $100,000 to pay for college, but not to have someone come in and teach me how to do these things.
I really feel like I have a master's degree in marketing.
Yes.
Did I go to a 4-year university?
I think you absolutely did.
But I learned, from the School of Hard Knocks, and I learned from the people that were doing it, and I implemented. One of the biggest things that I would say for people that usually don't have success in coaching is they don't take action.
Right.
So
that's everything.
You can learn, you can go to your Zoom and spend an hour, and then, oh, let me go back to the other things or my other bad habits that I was doing. And I'm an implementer. So like, if I'm going to spend $10,000, I'm going to need to get that $10,000 back. Right away.
Right. You're not going to wait for it to take care of itself.
I'm not going to be like, oh, I spent $10,000. I'm like, all right, I spent $10,000 now. And, and so I have to do the things that they tell me to do, or I'm not going to get my $10,000 back.
Right.
And so, I could take that, $70,000 that I spent in coaching, and
did you kind of take it in chunks? Because, and I ask it that way because I saw something the other day where a guy was like, all the time that you spend learning, reading, writing, putting down all your lists and everything, in a lot of ways, that's just procrastination to keep you from actually doing the thing 100%. That you're trying to do.
And I would sometimes feel, especially when I had the 3 coaches at the same time. So on average, I was spending about 9 hours a week on some form of coaching.
Right.
but I would implement, and I had a team. And so I'd be like, hey, you do this, I'm going to do this. And so it was a lot easier to delegate. But if I never learned anything, then they wouldn't be able to teach. Like my assistant is my transaction coordinator too, Taylor. She came to me as a pregnant flight attendant, and she's my best friend's daughter-in-law, and she couldn't fly anymore. And so I was like, oh, I'll hire you, and then I was like, okay, she's got it. Like, and she's me, like she is me all over again. So she can handle a lot of tasks. She's good at execution. She's never satisfied like me. Like we're always, what's the next thing or how do we improve that? So I think whenever you're, out there finding your coaches and you need to find the people, one, that you like to be around, because spending 9 hours, a week, you want to make sure it's people
you got to like them. Yeah.
And one of my coaches that I think that's taught me a whole
Are they all
lot,
local, or do you do everything Zoom?
Nobody
online?
Nobody is local.
Yeah.
One of my coaches, it's probably not somebody I'd be friends with, but he taught me a lot. He talked at me a lot. And I like to conversate like this. I like to, like, hey, this is working. And he just talked at me. So we figured that out real quick. And we're like, fine, because what he's saying is knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So then we just sit there for an hour and let him talk at you. And then when I felt like I drained pretty much all that he was going to teach me, I was like, hey, this has been great. See you later. And that was it. But if I hadn't taken action, or if I would have said, oh my gosh, he's just not my person. Oh my gosh, he doesn't understand me. He didn't give a shit. Like, honestly, he didn't care if he wanted to be like, this is what's working and this is what you need to do. And his conviction just made me believe it. And then when I started seeing the fruits of the labor, I was like, okay, he's not my cup of tea, but I'll, take a drink.
Yeah. How did you, so when you got the coaches that came through, like, how long do you judge, or in your mind, like how long you keep them or move on? Like, do you just know, okay, I've learned everything I kind of know from this guy, so it's time to move on?
And that's the case. So like my MAPS coach, John, I would have kept him forever. So if I could have found a way to keep him outside, but he's a contract.
Because sometimes it's like motivation almost too. It's just like, hey,
or just like
accountability, maybe.
Yes, accountability. Right. And then sometimes, like if you're a person like me, like that beats themselves up, it's kind of nice to tell somebody, and like I'll be like, oh, I did this, this, and this, and I'll just gloss over it, and he's just like, what? You did what? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I did this, but I mean, I could have done this. And he's just like, stop. Let's talk about what you did and how you did it and how we do more of it. So he was just a good sounding board for me. And he helped me with like teams, because, developing a team and building that is very hard. Yeah. So, and there's tons of teams out there that have, people that I call groups. So there's a difference between a team and a group. A group is just a bunch of people that come together at the end of the year and they add all their production together and they say, oh, I sold 100 million. It's like, great. Like 4 people made 100,000 and the rest are not making, a teacher salary. Right. So I wanted to form a team. I wanted to have everybody that had dual roles, because if I'm having a dual role, everybody else got to have a dual role. And I wanted to, help them, have a better life, help them want, and, and I've had trials, and tribulations with that. And I've poured into a lot of people, and sometimes it doesn't work, but I know that I can leave those relationships knowing that I gave them everything. And then if they chose not to do it, and real estate's not for everyone, and that's okay, then I can sleep well at night. But if I'm just sitting there taking, oh, she's going to take a percentage. I've never had like a buyer's agent that I've, taken splits from. Everyone has been like an integral role in my team. Right. So.
But they have a role in lifting up the whole team.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And everybody has it.
And, you don't do your job, then this person can't do their job. And, there's not any business, for us.
So if you were, again, you've reached Yoda level of the ability to do this kind of stuff, but there's a lot of people out there that haven't, and not even close to it. So just go back to like when you very first started. Let's just talk about social media specifically, right? Because you have so many systems and so many things in place that we could talk for 7.5 hours, and you could not run out of stuff. Well, we're definitely going to have a part 2. But on social media specifically, tell me if you were coaching somebody and they came to you and said, Cassie,
it's on my radar,
I need to get into social media and I know I need to do it. What would be the steps in the process to start from nothing?
I would start with stories.
Okay.
So if you have an Instagram and a Facebook, link those up with each other. Okay. You can produce the content in one and share it to the other. Stories, and I'm not saying, oh, just listed this. Stories should tell who you are and what you do on a day basis. Like we'll have people be like, y'all have so much fun. And we do have fun, but we get a lot of work done. But we're showing you who we are. We're not like our dogs come to the office with us almost every day because we have no control. And so that about us. Like you'll see them in our stories. Well, I like to put like every morning I think of like I find a meaningful quote. And it's not like I'm just like, oh, as a robot. I actually like find something that I think would, benefit somebody else, and I post it. And those, I will get one DM every single day from just a quote that I found that I've shared. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, especially on Instagram. Like there's a lot of things that you can share and do, but it's just doing it, especially if you're nervous on video. So if you want to make a video, put it in your story because it's only there for 24 hours.
Gotcha.
And if you hate it, you can delete it. But that's one of the big things that we've always done.
Where do the stories show up?
Stories will show up on the top of your feed.
Okay.
So,
so someone have to go to your page?
No. So on
the
Facebook,
thing at the top.
At the top. So and you know that, like, if you follow us and if like we don't have a story going or we don't have something, you're like, oh my gosh, are they sick or something, And we've had some shakeup in our team a little bit, and so I've had to do a lot more marketing than I was doing. But it's easy for me because it's just what I'm doing.
It's just what you do.
This is where we're going. And like showing my family, showing my son doing it.
Yeah.
People love that. And what's funny about it is I'll go to an event and they know everything.
Yeah.
They just, you don't have to tell them anything. Sometimes it's weird to me, especially like if I go to one of my events in California, because it could be somebody that I've never met, which my coach, like I help Krista out a lot, and she's put me on a platform. So sure. I've been in her coaching program longest. Me and one other agent have been in there forever. And so I'll have people that I'm just meeting for the first time and they just know everything about me. They're weird, just like it. So it is weird sometimes. Like when you have somebody be like, hey, how's Tim doing at Tom Ferry right now? And I'm like, what?
But when you put yourself out there like that, that's what it is.
And that's what you have to realize. That if you put a fake persona out there and who you're really not, it's going to show.
Yeah.
So just be yourself.
Yeah.
And then it goes away. It's not there forever. So, that's the easiest place to start with social media. And also I'm a big component in TikTok. Do I think it's the best, app on the market? No, it's the easiest app for me to produce content.
Right. And then you can use that and put it everywhere else. And then I can use
it. Yeah. So you take a TikTok, you make it in TikTok, you copy the link. There's an app called Snaptic, and that takes off the watermark because you don't want to put those, because if you share a TikTok to Instagram, other than stories, it doesn't really matter in stories. But if you share something onto Instagram, they're going to hide that because they're going to see that watermark, and Instagram wants you to make the content there.
Right.
So we'll take it and then you'll have it on your phone, and then you can upload it into Reels. You can upload it into Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels, and then Google My Business. If people aren't using Google My Business, it's free. And it shows your story. That's what you use it as. And so
I feel ridiculous that I don't even know. So I know I've heard of Google My Business, but I obviously don't use it
after this.
So you're saying that they have a platform for like shorts and reels and stuff too on Google My Business?
It's a profile.
Really?
So like we put educational stuff on there. If we go to lunch at, our favorite restaurants or something, then we'll take a team picture, or like we'll do a pan of the restaurant, and then we're like, hey, we really like this place, or, or we'll be like, okay, these are the steps to buy a house. Not the thing about that you should use that platform is, again, to tell who you are, who they're going to, if they do decide to pick up the phone and call you, who they're going to get when they call you.
Right.
So I think it's one of the most unused platforms out there.
Well, then you're not having to sell yourself necessarily, right?
And the process, the process is that you'll sign up for it, and it sounds weird, but Google will actually mail you a postcard with a 4-digit PIN.
Yep.
That's how you get that validated. And then you can start directing people. So like we put we have our Google page and for reviews, and we have it to a QR code. So like I can be at a listing, or I can be at a closing, and I'm like, hey, can you scan this and leave me a review real quick? And if agents are trying to do reviews,
wait, hang on. So you have a postcard in your hand that has a QR code on it. And then while you're at a listing or a closing, you can be like, hey, can you give me a review? And they'll scan it with their phone, put a review in right then, and that's it. That's amazing.
Yeah. And sometimes sometimes if somebody like, oh, I want to write something really meaningful, that I'm like, okay, that's great.
But go ahead and do it now anyway.
Or I say, okay, but I'm going to let you know that I have your permission. That's what I say. Do I have your permission to bug you until you do? Because on average, it takes sometimes 6 to 7 times to ask somebody for a review.
Yes.
So if I would have just stopped
and I'm sure you're asking every single time.
We literally spent like all of 2021, like dropping things off, mailing things. Like we did contests and on the slide, you're probably not supposed to do that, but we did contests where we gave away an iPad to, the people that would give us reviews. We, and a lot of them didn't even care if they ran it. They really wanted to do. And the cool thing is last year we had eight houses that we sold that came directly from reviews. So they found us, read a review, and they're like, this is the people I don't want to do business with. those people leave the best reviews.
Well, the reviews, I did experience that to some extent because we have a software. It's called Social Survey. I think it's a different name now. Actually, they changed it. But anyway, and it sends out, it's automated. We don't have to do much with it. When we have clients that close with us, it'll send them stuff. Now, I don't have the system that you have, obviously, where I get as many, but we've had a fair amount that come through. And then what I started happening last year was I would get calls from people, you know, because most of the time somebody calls me and they say, you know, so-and-so gave me your number, wanted me to give you a shout. I'm like, great. And then I always ask people, like, how'd you get my information? And they're like, oh, I found you on Google. I'm like, you found me on Google? I'm like, okay, cool. That's awesome. But it was because those reviews had really, because, you know, we had 100 of them or so that would be on there, and it was 4.99 or whatever. So they were, but that was helping us, you know, show up in the SEO a lot better.
It makes Google know that you're a verified business, and you actually have people that are saying good things about you.
Right. And then
you have to coach them on the reviews. So you're not going to be like, so this is my process. So when I start the transaction with them, I say, hey, you know, at the listing appointment, hey, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to do such a good job at the end of this that you have no choice but to give me a 5-star review. Then when we go under contract, I'll literally say,
just playing seeds.
Hey guys, I was like, oh, it's pretty good. I got your house sold really quickly. I'm earning that 5-star review. Then when we set up their closing and say, okay, hey, you have a closing tomorrow at da-da-da-da. Here's your link. If you want to go ahead and write a review now, because I'm going to ask you tomorrow at closing. Then sometimes they don't do it then. And then it's
so, okay, let me ask you a question. So once you get to that point, right? Because if you were doing that to me, like I'm writing that review when you see me.
Yeah, because you want me to leave you alone.
I'm going to write this review.
Yeah, because I mean, I tell them I think I'm going to bother you until you do.
So how many people actually, by the time you get to closing, right? And when they know you're going to ask again, how many have already done it? Would you say percentage-wise?
I would say probably maybe 15%, not quite 30. I mean, but still, I mean,
you got to press.
You're getting to 100 some way
That's
or another.
Right. That's right.
And then some of them, you know, like I'll have a client, like sometimes like I've, you know, did the whole funnel. I've asked you, I've dropped off things. I've given you, you know, the basket, and we try to, we do some inventive things too. So like, it's kind of funny. Like for St. Patrick's Day, we dropped off a Lucky Charms box with lottery tickets inside of them with a green balloon that kind of just was tied around it. And when you opened it, it was like, hey, we're so lucky to have clients like you. We'd really lucky if you would write us a review, because we have found that when our clients write us a review, then we attract people like you. So you've sit there and told them that you like them.
More people like you.
You told them that you want to do business with more people like you. And they're like, well, dang, yeah, I want her to be able to do people like me. And she likes me. The funny thing is about that one is we got a couple of text messages because it looks kind of creepy. Like
it's like the it thing, right?
That's exactly what they said. So I was like, hey, I mean, some of them got creeped out and gave us a review. So, and I mean, we did it like we went back far back in our database, because a lot of the people that we were doing business with were kind of already writing us a review, but it wasn't, we needed to get everybody on there. And, you know, and I mean, I had a client that I sold a house to probably 9 years ago that wrote us a review like last year. So, I mean,
that's
and
amazing.
I didn't ask them because he didn't know. I never asked him. So
because you didn't have your system in place, right?
And then so we did a lot of drop-offs and stuff. I spent the whole month of November doing video texts. And so I'd say, hey, Joe, I really liked when I was working with you, and I really want to work with more clients like you. So if you could click this link and just write a couple of sentences about your experience with us, if you could mention your city, that would be really helpful, because that helps with SEO. And they would do it. They would, I mean, like I'm literally sending them a message, calling them out, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to, and I didn't do it yet. So yes, I'm going to get on there right now and write your review. So
I feel so inadequate. Okay.
At least you're nice about it.
Yeah. Well, no, I
most
think
people are like, why does she do this? Why does she do that?
No.
And now it's funny because now they're like, well, how does she do this? And how does she do that?
You have
the same thing with property management. Yeah. Like when you walk into a room and they're like, oh my gosh, you manage how many properties? Oh, I would never do that. And I'm like, good. You send me on
more
your
for
referrals.
Me. Yeah, no doubt. Well, and I love, you know, we've never met. This is the first time we've met, but I love people like you, because you know exactly what you want to do. You know exactly what it's going to take to do it, and you execute that process. And I live in this charlatan world in my head where I think, okay, and I'm like that with some things, but not everything. And that has not lent itself to grow the way that I've wanted my own business to grow for that reason. But when you see somebody that's done what you've done, the way you've done it, it's inspiring. It really is.
Yeah.
Like,
and I hope that it is. That's my, you know, I want to be inspiring.
Yes.
People,
Well,
you know?
I equate it in, you know, I don't know if you take this good or bad, but a big basketball fan to some extent, but I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, been watching basketball for a long time. And Kobe Bryant was not my favorite human on the world because the Lakers would kick our butt all the time. And so I didn't really have a good appreciation for him. And then, of course, you know, he passed away tragically with his daughter. But then, thanks to TikTok, you see all the old interviews and stuff that I never was exposed to while he was playing. And when you learn about his mindset and just the way he, you know, I like wear my kids out about it. Cause I'm like, you know, there's one interview where he talks about failure and he wakes up and he's like, what does that mean? He's like, what is failure? He's like, I don't even like that word. He's like, I get up, I do this, you know, I put the work in. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, I learn from him and I do it better the next time. And then I wake up the next day and I do it again. And it's just this idea that, you know, there is no quitting, right? You're just going to keep going. And if something doesn't work, then you're going to try something different. And if that doesn't happen, then it's going to try something different. And I can't imagine that you would spend very much time living in poor me land, right? That you don't have very many pity parties, right?
No. So I think what really changed for me is when I really started becoming competitive with myself.
Yes.
Not looking to see what Sally doing over there and why did Joe get that closing. I'm super competitive with myself, which also sometimes leans on me being a little bit harder on myself.
Sure.
But it's because I want to do more. I want everybody around me to do better. And I know that I have eyes on me now. I know that there's agents all over the United States that watch what I do and, you know, and emulate it. And so it makes me obviously no, I have to show up. There's no slacking here. So it's kind of nice. But when I stopped worrying about what everybody else was thinking about me and just worried about myself, it just changed. It just opened it up to be more of an authentic self because you don't, you know, it doesn't matter what Sally does or what Joe does. It matters what you do, because if they have this and it works for them, what did you make off that?
Right.
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, nothing off that.
Yeah. And you didn't lose anything. You didn't gain anything. It didn't impact you at all.
Unless you learn to do what they're doing because it worked, then do it and keep on going. But I've just always been super competitive with myself and not other people.
Have you seen the little girl? It's like TikTok reels, whatever, but she's a little girl in the she's in the car seat. She's putting her buckles on, and her dad's like, "Hey, do you need me to help you? Worry about yourself." Like that's I have a shirt. I made it, or my friend of mine made a shirt for me because that's like my favorite. You know, this little girl just like, quit worrying about worry about you. Just worry about you.
I got this.
Yes. Yep. So where do you get inspiration for some of your, you know, your videos? Like, do you follow certain people?
Some things are R&D. Just rob and duplicate. Especially
R&D, rob and duplicate.
Yeah.
So this is great.
That a lot of that comes from my husband. He's always that.
My favorite reel, the one, I don't know if it was this or TikTok, second or third one I saw of yours that I literally laughed out loud because I know people have done it before, but it was just being in the world. It was hilarious. And I think it's pinned on there right now where it's that, whatever that song is, that hopeful song that they play. And then, you know, Tim says he'll be back in a few minutes and he walks out the door, flings the thing, puts on his sunglasses, and goes strolling to the golf course. Like I was dying laughing on that just because I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. I'll be back alone. I'm getting out of here. I'm not doing this stuff.
He's like, I'm not doing it. And that is my husband. Like if you knew him, you would know that that's literally his personality.
Right.
Like
so
he's
that was
always trying to get to the golf course no matter what.
Yes. So, so you R&D, rob and duplicate.
So,
love that.
I would say, you know, coaching. So with my TikTok coach, I found him online. I stalked him for a little bit and I copied a lot of things. And, you know, there's some coaches out there, and this is the thing that people need to realize. A lot of them tell you everything. So if you go listen to their podcast or go watch their YouTube, it's all there.
Right.
And he was just giving me a little bit. A little bit here and there. So when I signed up for his coaching program, which wasn't even really that expensive, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, but he had systems and processes. So I was like, okay, like he pulled out a Google Doc and like all of these columns. And it was like, you know, like he does, like it's coaching every single day, Monday through Friday for an hour. And each day is on like Monday's mindset, Tuesday's trend. So like when you see me doing trending things, that's a lot of times. And the funniest thing is a lot of times we're ahead of him. So he's, of course, I'm in, you know, kind of being his little star pupil right now. But, and then on Wednesdays we do win. So we all talk about what's working, what's not working. On Tuesdays, he takes over our accounts and he's like, hey, you really need to not do that, or you need to do this more. And then on Fridays, he teaches us funnels because we're all on this social media to get leads. We're not just out there. I mean, you should be out there for the no like trust factor, but in the end, that's not going to pay your bills.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So with him, he had such a process with it. So it's, you know, and sometimes it's just what's going on. And sometimes I get blocks and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to make any videos. So I do batch a lot of things too. So like you'll see me, you know, if you really watch it, you're like, oh, she did 3 videos in the same outfit. That's because I made them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like this morning,
do you do that a lot? Do you mostly batch?
Yeah. So this morning I knew knew that I had this going on. And I get to the office, I'm the first person there. And I've kind of made it a rule that nobody can come to the office before 9 a.m. Okay. That's my time. So I'll do, I'll at least try to do 3 TikToks every day.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I have some, if I can tell things aren't performing as well, then I might not post all 3 of them that day. I might just throw out one. But I also, if it's, there's timing that's involved with those posts. And
do you use a auto post software like Sendable or anything, or do you post them organically yourself?
No, I think that organic is the way to go because
I've heard they've kind of throttled down.
So the back end, if you share something, it's not that image, it's all those, like we talked about coding, it's all that images that goes behind it.
Right.
So then if you're batching it, then it's not original creation. So TikTok and Instagram want it to be original creation.
So the batching they kind of throttle down.
Yeah, I don't
not batching, but the auto posting or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that there is one great auto posting site out there. I think that you need to post everything, and it's a process. It's easy. So you put it, you make it one place, and then you put it everywhere that you need to put it, and you can copy your content. You can on TikTok, you can't put very much on. On Instagram, you can put a paragraph, 3 paragraphs, all that stuff. So you want to change it up a little bit. But it's just, you're not recreating the wheel. You're just using that. I try to put everything that I make, I try to put it everywhere that I think that it will do good.
On Instagram, because I've noticed, I mostly use Facebook because I'm a dude and I never really got into social media very much at all. As far as using it, I wasn't posting. I just started posting a couple of years ago, really. And so I never really got into Instagram. TikTok I found interesting because you just fall in holes and you can't crawl out of them. But looking at Instagram, I noticed that they have pictures and videos, whatever. But then, like you said, you could post 4 paragraphs. Is that a beneficial thing?
So I think TikTok or Instagram is trying to figure it out right now.
Yes.
So I think
they don't know what they want to be.
They're not Facebook and they're not TikTok. TikTok is really going for algorithm SEOs, words and things like that. So that's why they added captions. So every video that you do on there, add the captions to it because all those words are going to show up in search terms. And
do you have to use their captions, or if you use a CapCut?
No, you need to use theirs.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So okay, that's another thing. I could go on for days, but if you post something and it already has words on it on TikTok, none of that's going to keyword search.
Really?
None of it. It has to be made in the app. So
gotcha. Mm-hmm. And in their app, do they have the different types of? Okay.
Yeah, you can have different, and the thing about TikTok is they want you to have a big following, so they give you more depending on how many followers. So we're under 10,000. So the next thing we want is series, so that you don't have to go watch. If you want to watch my buyer stuff, it's up there. If you want to do this is just for fun, it's there. So that's the next thing. So some things are not available to all people.
Right. Do you have any worry with TikTok about all the issues that everybody's freaked out about with it?
No, because if they take it away, I'll figure out something
you'll find
else.
another route. Yeah.
And right now, my Instagram reels are doing amazing. We're getting I will post a TikTok that gets 200 views. You do get stuck in 203.
Yes.
That's a real thing.
Found that.
I get it all the time. And I'm just it's just the work. You got to get it to work it out.
Yeah.
So, where was I going with that?
On the Instagram views?
On Instagram. So the last couple, the ones that have had music with them aren't doing as good. The ones of me talking, the last 3 TikTok that I've posted with me talking all have 15,000 views.
Oh, the reels.
Reels.
Instagram reels.
Instagram reels. Yes, they all have 15,000. And they got 200, 300, 500. Yeah. So again, you don't want to make that content and just put it one place. You want to, and then
But the problem with all that stuff is it always morphs, right? Because it's never, the reason you have to post consistently and do it constantly is because it changes so much.
Oh, that's why I hired the coach, because I was so frustrated because I'm my systems and process girl. So when I'm okay, I learned this. And I'm well, that doesn't work anymore. Oh, they said not to do this. Now used to be tons of hashtag. Now they're no, we 3 or 4 hashtags. And you want to make sure that you do hyper local. So I use Burleson on all mine. Yeah, if I used Fort Worth, my reach would go so much further. But I want to work in Burleson.
Leads. Yeah.
I want to work in Burleson. I want to be the mayor of Burleson. Not really, because I live outside the city limits. I won't let my husband live in town because he wants to be on city council. No, we live outside the city limits. So, but I want to be. So if you do, hashtag Burleson, Texas, my videos are all over that. If you do hashtag Burleson Realtor, I own that page.
Yes, and
it's fine because I'm not trying to reach everyone. I just want to reach the people that are important to me. Right. So, and it's hard because your ego gets in the way and you're oh, I just, sometimes you'll spend more time on a video and it won't get any views. And then I'll make something that takes me less than a minute and it gets 5,000 views. And you're just There's no rhyme. But if I stopped or if I didn't do it, it's just all of the things. So like I'll do my 3 videos and I'll have them for like, I'll do a trending video, then I'll do an education. And then I'm really starting to push like leads, like, hey, I want you to click the link in my bio. But then you can't type the link in bio in TikTok. You type link in bio, or you can't say call me because they don't want you to take you off the app. So you have to do like the little link emoji, and then you do like the bio, like my bio, I do a B and then an eyeball and then an O. So like but if I didn't have a coach, I would just be like,
how would you know?
How would I know?
Yeah.
And he's out there and honestly, I'm like, he's out there spending time searching it. He's teaching me. So I'm not, I'm spending, an hour on the phone on a call with him.
Well, it's so funny because it's just a different way you think about it. And I'm guilty because I just don't think about it that way. But it's like I would hire a plumber to come to my house and fix my sink or fix my toilet because I don't really know how to do it. I kind of know how to do it, but not really. I'm going to screw up a bunch of stuff.
It's going to leak in a while.
Yeah, it's going to have a problem, So I'm like, I'm going to pay that guy to come do that because it'll take 30 minutes and it's done. But I'm not willing to pay someone. This is my business and I'm trying to bring leads in and I'm trying to make money, but I'm not willing to pay this guy to come teach me how to do this thing because it's always changing. I mean, it's just, it makes complete and utter sense, but people again are defensive. They're not offensive. They're always on the defense.
And what makes me sad right now is there's so many agents wanting to do social media now. And now it's like, they're not going to spend the money on the coach. And that's kind of upsets me because I'm just like, just spend it because it's going to I can show you mathematically how what I spent for coaching has earned me this much because, I wouldn't have had that before. And so I really, if you're listening and you're an agent, just take it out, swipe your credit card, do it. Because if you don't learn now, you're going to keep being behind because I think it's going to be a tough year. I think it's going to be a tough year for everyone. There's still business to be had. I think next year is going to be pretty amazing. I think that
2024.
I think that either people are going to get used to rates or we're going to get smart and, figure out ways around it and things like that. And I think that if you don't spend this year, when you do have time building your business and working on your business, it's not going to matter next year. You're going to be sitting there doing your average of 4 deals a year, 1 a quarter, and wondering why you're not doing any business. And it's because it's an art. You got to study it. I mean,
so I got 2 more questions for you because we're an hour and 15 into this. And I want to be, I could do this for 4.5 hours, but I know you got places to be because you've got a system in place and you got the next thing coming. Number 1, have you ever thought about being a coach?
Yes.
And are you going to do that?
It's on my radar. Yes. So sometimes I get a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like when you sit here and tell me, I know, but I get if my husband was here, he would literally be like, he's the best thing for me because I can tell him, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And he will just look at me with a blank stare and be like, what are you talking about? You're awesome at what you do. So I am really, really contemplating coaching because I do thrive on helping people. And I do think that I have something to offer, but then I do, have a little, devil on my shoulder that says, oh, you need to do a little bit more business or, oh, well, she didn't do 100 transactions. She only did 53 last year while also managing, or, my goal last year was 1 million GCI. I wanted to hit 1 million GCI. I barely missed it. So that was, but to me, I missed it.
Yeah.
When most people didn't do a whole lot that last quarter of the year. I had 5 closings in December, but I'd missed that goal. But I also had a transaction number goal and we raised our average sales price by 100,000. So if you take the 53 deals times 100, it's almost 6 million in production, pretty much doing almost the same amount of business, a little bit more than the year before. So, but marketing.
Well, I definitely think just in the, I felt like I felt like I was sitting in front of a fire hydrant and I cranked it open and it just, I was like, gosh, there's so much. I'm going to have to go back and watch this 4 times.
I've been drinking from that fire hose for a long time.
So I definitely think that you have, and I have personally looked into different types of coaches and different people and, kind of like you, I go online. I'm like, oh, what's this guy talking about? What's this? Just kind of get a gauge on who they are. And you have more, because here's my biggest problem with coaching is everybody's talks stuff up here. They're all like, you got to have the mindset and you got to do that. But then you get into, no, this is, you do this here. And because you created your systems, you created all the little detailed steps all the way through. So you know them like the back of your hand versus just the hierarchy overview of, what most people say.
A lot of them will put this picture and here's this beautiful picture that I painted. And you're like, oh, that's great. I want to paint that picture. well, how did you sign? I'm like, no, get your canvas out.
Right.
Let's blank. Let's
get
show
this
you.
color, get this type of thing.
This is what I did here. Don't even need an eraser because I did that. Don't do that.
Yes.
And so I do, and that's what draws me to it. It's because I genuinely do feel drawn to helping people. Yes. And I do know that I have, something to offer. But again,
well, I would pay for your coaching. I'm telling you right now, because simply
my husband's loving this right now.
Well, I'm just saying, because you're very detailed. Mm-hmm. You're not, a lot of people have a lot of smoke and no fire, or whatever, however you want to say it. Like, there's a lot of things that, oh, well, I think this and I believe that, and you should do this and you should do that. And you go, okay, well, how do you do that? Like, what about this? What about, but you just got to get into it and work with, and you didn't say anything. You just put a bunch of words together that sounded good and it meant nothing. But I need actual, like, hard steps on how you get to it.
You need a handhold.
And you do that. That's what you have, because you created all those things. So I absolutely think that you should get into that sooner rather than later, because like you said, if 2024 is going to be what it is, then this is your year to get after it. So second thing is this might be a little longer, but what do you think market as a whole? We talked a lot about marketing and advertising stuff, but you've been in the market for a long time. You see this kind of stuff. My biggest fear right now, and you can tell me if this is wrong, is that the opportunity to own a home as somebody your son's age and my kid's age is shrinking rapidly because of the cost, because of what people can make as jobs and income these days and what they can afford, what we're building. So, and corporate interest coming in and buying up properties. Okay. That's my biggest, because if you
we didn't talk about that last year.
No.
We didn't talk about it.
It was happening all over the place.
It was happening everywhere. Yes. And I mean, they were, especially your entry level homes.
Yes.
Those were the lowest, barrier to entry.
They could write cash for it, and they were
cash and go. And like, we are literally robbing, the Gen Zs. Is that the right one?
I think the Gen Zs. No, we're Gen X.
We're Gen Z.
Or I'm Gen X.
I'm a millennial.
You're a millennial.
Only by a year.
By a little bit.
But I think we are that, it just happened. And I don't think, everybody was just like, oh yeah, this corporation's going to buy this listing. And so, like, I mean, when I had multiple offers and, and it was a corporation, I had some sellers that they were like, I don't care who buys their house. And then I have some that did care.
Well, that's good.
And I wanted to have that conversation with people, not to sway them one way or the other, but just to understand that, here's the offers, here's, page one, this is, so-and-so corporation. I looked them up, they own this much real estate because I did my work. And because I also want to know, is this their first house? If there's their first house and they're trying to get into the investment, then I don't want to,
it could be a mom and pop LLC.
And it could have been that. So, but they gobbled up a lot of property, and I honestly think if foreclosures start to happen,
it'll happen on those.
I don't think that we'll ever see the foreclosures come on the market. Yes. I think that the banks are either going to rent them out, or they're going to sell them for a profit, and we're not going to see them. They're going to start swapping out equities with other people. So before, like when I got in the business, you had HUD homes, and you had, well, not just HUD, but you would have foreclosures, and then you would go and look at them, and then you bid on them. I don't think that those are going to ever come back on the market.
Well, that's a mechanism that they already use with stocks, because dark pools, which I don't think many people are familiar with, where you have a certain group of people that get, Robinhood is really guilty of that, where you think you're buying the share, but they're really transacting it to another and then selling it for a penny or two higher or lower, or whatever the case may be. And then before it ever gets to the actual trade on what they're doing, and then they're just making gobs of money because of the amount
off of your investment.
And I mean, it's horrible. Like, it's absolutely horrible, but that's what you're saying. And that's what's going to happen.
And so when everybody's like, oh, wait, the market to crash and we'll get all these foreclosures, guess what? I don't think they're going to hit the market.
No, even if it happens. Well, I saw something today about,
why would they? I mean, they can just trade with each other.
Yeah, they can do it internally and don't have to mess with it. It is a big, there was it still is a little bit in my head because with my job, specifically with lending, and you look at what's coming with Web3 and what's happening with blockchain and all of that stuff on basically eliminating the middleman, where the third party is kind of gone. I still think real estate, or realtors, I should say, are always going to have a place, because real estate is so local, and it's so very much, you can't, they tried to come in with
Zillow.
Yeah, they couldn't
Zillow tried to come in, and it's still a relationship based business. Yes. They wanted to make it transaction. Zillow is amazing at marketing, and anybody that says that they're not, they're wrong, because they spent so many years studying the consumers and what their behavior was before they actually did the buying process, and they got in front of them before that. And I think that's showing right now that Zillow lost all that money because they can't beat us.
Yeah.
They can't price because your neighbor sold for this. They can't tell you, they can't buy in bulk when they're not. And so honestly, it showed us that if you show up, you do a good job, it's a relationship-based business and people want to deal with a person.
Right.
Because if you look at like Open Door and, those kind of companies, like there's not a whole lot of people who are like, I sold the Open Door and it was amazing.
No.
Most of them was just like, oh, I sold it. They got me at this. And then, then they got me down to this price and I'd already went and found another house. And, what was I going to do? So then they lose equity and things. A realtor's not going to let that happen.
No. Well, and I did it's probably a month or two ago. It was before the Christmas. I did a search in Mansfield just to see, how many people or how many houses were listed at a certain price range. And I think I was doing like 400,000 or something like that. And there was like 15 houses. And that was it. Mm-hmm. Of those 15 houses, 9 of them were owned by either Open Door or Redfin or somebody like. Most of them were Open Door.
Yeah,
and
Open Door.
When you see the pictures and there's holes in the wall and nothing's painted, they don't care. They do not care.
Some virtual staging to cover up the stained carpet,
which is what's going to come bleeding into your other business, which is the property management side. Are you familiar with the software that they've come up with? That I don't remember what it's called. I have to go back and look at it. I just saw it in passing, but it basically monopolizes how they charge rents, where basically they go in and say, okay, we're going to go to this landlord, this. We're going to sell all this software to them. And then everybody's on the same thing. And then we're going to raise rent.
Pricing them that way.
They're pricing them that way across the board.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, but yeah.
Yeah. So that was a national thing I saw on one of the things that I follow on YouTube, but I can't remember the name of it. But there's so many things like that that are starting to bleed into real estate, because what my opinion has always been, this is the last, we're trying to commoditize it.
Yes.
This is the last thing. Water, your phone, your car. We don't own anything anymore. Nothing's owned. You don't own your music. You don't own your car for the most part. A lot of people still buy them, but and now we're moving that way into housing. And then everything is just going to be a monthly subscription. You're going to have to pay on a monthly basis. They're going to inject the little drip into your vein, and they're just going to pull that money out.
You're going to need more, and
yes. So that's something that is a concern to me, but I didn't know, with you seeing everything the way you said, if you kind of felt the same way or how.
No, I mean, I've seen where in our area, like people would overprice it. So then I would have an investor and be like, oh, well, so-and-so house got, this much a month. And so I'd be like, okay, they got that much. This is the one time they're going to be able to do that. And that tenant's going to move out at the end of the year because the prices they're going to find something more affordable. So I'd show them math, be like, okay, yeah, they're getting $200 more a month. Okay. Yes, that sounds great. So then that person moves out. Then you have leasing fees. Then you have, it's taken on average about 45 days to rent. So you have a month and a half of holding costs. Yeah. And so I could show them how, if you will market it at market value, your tenants will stay longer, right? Because there's not a better option for them. And, I would lose some, because like if somebody comes to me and they're like, okay, my payment's $1,700 and I have a 1,200 square foot house and I want to make $200 a month. I'm like, well, it's not there. And they're like, okay, yeah, but if I did the math and if I charge $2,000 a month, I'm like, you can, good luck. Cause I will not take one overpriced, because it doesn't work for my business. And I don't want my sign sitting in somebody's yard for, 4 months because the seller or the owner decided to overprice it. So, and that's the cool thing, is like the way that I work with property management is they need me way more than I need them. Right. It's just one house that I'm getting 10% off of it, but they're getting a master at what she does. And so I look at them, and like, if I'm having a problem with somebody and I'm like, okay, I don't think that this relationship is working because you don't want to fix things and you don't want to treat people like human beings. So I'm just gonna have to let you go. And they're like, wait, you're going to let me go? Like there's an option? Like, yeah. That contract can be rescinded by me. It's in my clause. I can rescind my contract at any time, because they're humans, they're people. And, like a lot of my investors are like, oh, well, did they break this? And this happened. Did they break this? And I'm just like, okay, you can't nickel and dime these people because they're already struggling. Have you gone to the grocery store lately and seen how much, eggs are or milk is and things like that? So they're going to stop reporting things. Yeah. So you're going to get them on this one thing, and then you're going to move out and your sink's been leaking for 4 months. You have mold. You have to replace the bottom base of the cabinets. You also have to mediate mold and make sure that you don't have that growing. So you can charge them for that, and then they're not going to report anything else. So.
Wow. All right. Well, that's an hour and a half of just chock full. You're set up for a long time, bro. This lady's got you headed in the right direction. So you won the DNA lottery, bro. Congratulations. So Cassie, thank you so much. I definitely want to do this again sometime, because I don't think I could do 100 of these with you, and I still don't think we would be able to get to everything. So,
and I hope that somebody's listening to this and, says, hey, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because, I'm just the 19-year-old that decided to get in real estate. And here we are,
and here
22
you are,
years later.
killing it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. We'll do it again sometime. Cassie Spears, great having you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys.